Chicago, Tuesday morning. The Loop is alive with movement. Office workers stream from train stations. Tourists snap photos of the bean. Construction crews are setting up for the day's work. At exactly 8:13 a.m., as the city pulses with morning activity, a nuclear device explodes 770 meters above Daley Plaza. In less than 10 seconds, over 127,000 people are dead. And the heart of the city is gone. You won't hear it coming, but you'll see the flash. 8:13 a.m. Remember this time. It's when everything changes. This isn't science fiction. It's a weapon the world has already seen. Little Boy, a 15-kiloton uranium bomb, identical to the one that flattened Hiroshima in 1945. A weapon of mass destruction designed specifically for maximum urban devastation. In our scenario, it detonates at an altitude of 770 meters above Daley Plaza. The airburst maximizes the pressure wave's destructive power, sending it outward rather than into the ground. This strategic detonation height creates a wider radius of destruction across Chicago's dense urban grid. Little Boy was crude by today's standards, a gun-type fission weapon just under 10 feet long and weighing about 9,700 pounds. But don't let its simplicity fool you. This first-generation nuclear weapon changed warfare forever and remains capable of unimaginable destruction. Equivalent to 15,000 tons of TNT, this bomb was engineered for one purpose: to obliterate a city with a single flash. What it did to Hiroshima in 1945, now scaled to 2025 Chicago. When detonated, the bomb's uranium core achieves critical mass in microseconds, releasing energy at a scale previously unknown to humanity. The temperature at its core reaches several million degrees, hotter than the surface of the sun. Unlike modern thermonuclear weapons, this type of bomb produces relatively minimal fallout compared to its immediate destruction. Its devastation comes primarily from three killers: the blast wave, thermal radiation that ignites everything in its path, and the crushing pressure that collapses buildings for miles. Though nuclear weapon technology has advanced tremendously since 1945, Little Boy remains the only nuclear weapon ever used against a civilian population. The nuclear detonation begins with a blinding flash. The fireball forms in milliseconds. Everything within 198 meters of the explosion is instantly vaporized. Beyond that, heat, shock waves, and deadly radiation race outward in expanding circles of devastation. At Daley Plaza, temperatures reach 100 million degrees Celsius, 17,000 times hotter than the sun. The iconic Picasso sculpture and surrounding buildings transform into superheated gas, becoming part of the expanding fireball. Lethal radiation extends 1.1 kilometers outward. This 500 rem dose, 5 times what killed Chernobyl first responders, overwhelms cellular repair mechanisms and destroys bone marrow, even inside buildings. The 5 psi pressure wave reaches 1.73 kilometers at hurricane-like speeds. This force, comparable to a 160 miles per hour Category 5 storm, collapses reinforced concrete structures and instantly ruptures internal organs. Thermal radiation races to 1.84 kilometers. Third-degree burns are universal in this zone. Clothing ignites. Materials from Grant Park to Northwestern Hospital burst into flames simultaneously. The 1 psi zone extends 4.88 kilometers. Windows throughout Chicago implode violently. Glass flies faster than the sound of the explosion, causing hundreds of thousands of lacerations across neighborhoods from Lincoln Park to Hyde Park. As the initial blast subsides, thousands of fires merge into a firestorm. Chicago transforms from metropolis to apocalyptic landscape in under 60 seconds, igniting 30 square miles almost instantaneously. Iconic symbols vanish. Willis Tower collapses. The beam melts. Union Station becomes a crater. What's left isn't rubble, it's ash. Horrified, Willis Tower is destroyed in seconds. The pressure wave shatters 16,000 windows simultaneously. Steel and glass collapse like paper. 15,000 people inside have no time to react as floors pancake downward. Chicago's tallest building becomes a mountain of twisted steel. Grim. Union Station at 8:13 a.m., platforms packed with commuters. The ornate Great Hall's skylight implodes, raining glass onto those below. Steel beams become missiles. Support columns fail catastrophically. An architectural masterpiece transforms into a mass grave in seconds. Disbelief. The Magnificent Mile transforms from retail heaven to apocalyptic hell. The Wrigley Building and Tribune Tower crumble. Luxury storefronts explode outward. Underground parking structures collapse. What isn't burned is buried as Chicago's premier shopping district vanishes. Gravely, the Chicago River boils from thermal radiation. Its iconic movable bridges twist and fail where a great American city once stood. You're at the beam, looking up at your reflection. A flash, brighter than 1,000 suns. 1.2 seconds later, you no longer exist. Your shadow might briefly mark the pavement, the only evidence you were ever here. Urgent. You're checking your watch at Union Station, running late. The skylight above turns white. Glass flies through the crowd at 300 kilometers per hour. 127,760 dead. 245,510 injured. Most never had time to react. The city center becomes a zone of unmarked graves. At this hour, over 670,000 people were inside the light blast zone, shopping, working, commuting. Chicago's downtown population density peaks between 8 and 9 a.m. as workers arrive and tourists begin their day. The detonation occurs at the worst possible moment. Within a 1.8-kilometer radius, third-degree burns are certain. Skin doesn't just burn, it carbonizes. Nerve endings are destroyed, leaving victims unable to feel pain and deeply damaged tissue. Those who survive the initial blast face excruciating recoveries. Further out, collapsing glass kills the everyday materials of the city, becoming lethal. Every hospital within 5 kilometers is damaged or destroyed. First responders become casualties themselves. The city designed to handle emergencies is overwhelmed instantly. For every person who might be saved, 50 cannot be reached. For every trained medical professional, hundreds of injured have no access to care. The first wave of deaths comes from the blast itself, the second from fires and collapsing structures. The third will claim those with radiation poisoning and untreated injuries. Chicago's death toll doesn't stop rising when the mushroom cloud dissipates. Unlike larger ground-based nukes, this explosion leaves little radioactive dust. But that's no mercy. It only means the city is cleanly incinerated. At 770 meters above Daley Plaza, Little Boy detonates well above ground. This altitude is precisely calculated for maximum destruction. The fireball never touches the Earth's surface, creating a crucial difference in aftermath. Fallout, the radioactive particles that drift for miles and poison for decades, requires a ground detonation. When a nuclear weapon explodes below 162 meters, it sucks up tons of soil and debris into its fireball, irradiating this material before scattering it across vast areas. Some irradiated particles may drift east over Lake Michigan, but exposure levels remain relatively low compared to a ground burst. The lake itself, Chicago's historic lifeline, absorbs what little fallout there is, contaminating the water supply but sparing downwind communities from the worst radioactive effects. No ash clouds blotting out the sun, no emergency broadcast signals, no fallout shelters needed, no sirens wailing across neighborhoods. Just silence. Because those meant to hear them never got the chance. The absence of significant fallout doesn't reduce suffering, it merely changes its nature. Instead of slow deaths from radiation sickness spreading across the Midwest, the casualties are concentrated and immediate. Chicago doesn't slowly poison surrounding states, it simply ceases to exist as a functioning city. This matches the Hiroshima pattern, an airburst that maximized immediate destruction while minimizing long-term radioactive contamination. The bombing that ended a world war and began the atomic age was designed not for lasting contamination, but for immediate psychological and physical impact. The cruel calculus of nuclear warfare. A weapon engineered to destroy a civilization while leaving its territory usable afterward. Chicago doesn't become uninhabitable for centuries, just uninhabited today. And now what? Think a car will save you? It becomes a mobile coffin. Iodine pills? Useless. The radiation arrives before your hand reaches the bottle. You see the flash and rush to the window. Fatal mistake. Flying glass kills faster than the heat. Windows become guillotines, slicing through flesh at hundreds of miles per hour. You think you'll drive away? Chicago's streets already experience gridlock on normal days. Panic turns roads into parking lot. Your escape route becomes your tomb as thermal radiation ignites vehicle fuel tanks simultaneously. Those who survive the blast must now survive collapse. Fires spread unchecked. Water lines break. Cell towers fall silent. Hospitals vanish. 911 is offline. The emergency response system collapses when needed most. Dispatch centers are destroyed. First responders become victims. Calls for help go unanswered. Water mains rupture across the blast zone. Hydrants run dry. Without water pressure, firefighters watch helplessly as separate fires merge into a firestorm. Thoughtful. Would you survive this red zone. If you live or work within 2 kilometers of Chicago's Loop, your chances of survival are less than 20%. Day 2. The smoke settles. But the city doesn't recover. Environmental Protection Agency declares the Loop uninhabitable. Radiation levels don't match Chernobyl, but structural hazards and toxic debris make recovery impossible in the short term. Chicago is gone. But what if the next one hit Los Angeles, or Houston, or your city? Let us know where you live, and we may simulate your city next. Subscribe to witness how cities fall and how the few survive. Understanding nuclear weapons isn't morbid curiosity, it's essential knowledge in a world where these arsenals still exist.